Do you love horror and paranormal stories? So what are you waiting for to subscribe then? We present the stories we have taken out of the dusty shelves of the archives for you. Our next story, Safety on the Night Shift, Pleasant Times. Sergei Pavlov was an ordinary night shift security guard at a small factory located in a remote town in northern Russia. The old factory had been shut down for years and was now used only as a storage facility. Sergei had taken the job to support his family and was trying to get used to spending long, lonely nights in the desolate building. One night at exactly 2 a.m., Sergei was sitting in the control room watching the security cameras. Suddenly, one of the cameras began showing static. "This old system is acting up again," Sergei muttered, stepping out to fix the issue. As he walked through the long corridors, he suddenly heard footsteps. It sounded like someone in heavy boots was walking toward him from the far end of the corridor. Sergei quickly headed in that direction to investigate, but found nothing but an empty hallway. Growing uneasy, Sergei pulled out his flashlight and carefully examined his surroundings. Soon, he thought he could hear faint whispers. The chilling voices echoed off the damp walls, sounding like cries for help. The whispers led Sergei to an abandoned production area. As he wandered among rusted machinery and pipes, he thought he saw a shadow move. When he turned to look, the shadow vanished. At that moment, the factory's generators stopped, plunging the entire building into darkness. Sergei reached for his radio, but it only emitted a strange, static-like noise. Panic rising, he began to feel as though something was moving along the walls. As Sergei moved through the dark, the floor beneath him suddenly gave way, and he fell. When he got up, he found himself in a part of the factory he had never seen before. The room was filled with dusty files and old documents. Going through the files, Sergei discovered that the factory had been shut down 20 years ago due to a chemical leak, and several workers had gone missing. Among the list of missing workers, one name caught Sergei's eye: Ivan Petrov. Ivan was a distant relative of Sergei's. Suddenly, the door to the room slammed shut. Sergei tried to open it, but it felt as though an unseen force was holding it closed. From the darkness, a woman's scream echoed, freezing Sergei in his tracks. When he shone his flashlight into the corners of the room, he saw shadows shaped like humans moving. As the screams grew louder, the shadows rushed toward Sergei. Desperately, Sergei rammed into the door and managed to burst out. But the corridor he entered was unrecognizable. The walls were now covered with photos of the missing workers, all staring blankly at Sergei. Just then, a sound came through his radio. It wasn't a human voice, it was a deep, echoing hum that seemed to pierce his soul. The voice whispered, "Don't leave." Despite his fear, Sergei continued deeper into the factory. Suddenly, a figure wearing a worker's uniform appeared in front of him. The figure, whose face was obscured, extended a hand toward Sergei and murmured, "Save them." Sergei screamed and backed away, running through the corridors, but the halls seemed to shift like a maze. As he ran, he noticed the floors constantly changing, and some corridors disappeared entirely. He finally reached a door, behind which he heard a child crying. Opening it, Sergei found a little girl sitting on a table. The girl looked at him and said, "Get us all out of here." Despite his terror, Sergei resolved to help the child. But then her face suddenly darkened, and a thick smoke filled the room. Sergei blacked out and woke up at the factory's entrance. When the morning shift arrived, they found Sergei covered in dust, the scratches on his arms. His story was met with skepticism, but when the managers reviewed the security footage, they found that all the cameras had malfunctioned at the same time during the night. Local news outlets began spreading rumors that the factory was cursed. Sergei, however, swore never to work a night shift again. A few weeks later, Sergei began having strange dreams. In them, the missing workers called out to him, repeating a single word, justice. The factory was sealed off permanently and abandoned, but locals claim they still saw shadows around the building at night and heard screams coming from within. For Sergei, it was a nightmare that would never end.